I'm Joe from English Today. I'm really looking forward to come teach your class.
So, Joe, can you tell me a little bit about your teaching experience?
Right, well, when I first arrived in Indonesia, I was actually teaching at Wall Street, at Pondok Indah. I actually became center manager there for about 2 years. Before coming to Indonesia, I was teaching in Thailand, at a university in Thailand. But yeah, here I am.
Good. Can you tell me about some of the companies that you've taught at?
Since joining English Today, I've taught AirAsia, Amway, many banks, Mandiri, so quite a few companies. I do much a lot of mining as well. I did Micromine, I did Glencore, which is a coal company. Quite a wide variety. My background in Australia is actually hospitality, so I also do a lot of customer service type companies, hotels, airlines, that kind of thing. It's a variety really. Very enjoyable.
So Joe, what's your advice on the best way to improve your vocabulary?
Vocabulary, this question comes up a lot. It's a really interesting question, and students really ask this a lot. And 90% of people do it the wrong way. The best way to increase your vocabulary range, you see a new word, you look up the meaning, and then you move on. But the problem with that is it's not going to stick. You're not going to remember it. So really the best way is you learn a new word, you look up its meaning, and then you create sentences with that new word. There's been study after study after study that's shown it works. Words stick if you put them in context, Words stick if you put them in sentences. Sentences are amazing, magical.
Joe, how important is it to be able to deliver presentations in English in today's business world?
So I think at the moment, if your company is not able, or your staff in your company is not able to deliver presentations in English, you're falling behind. We've reached that stage now in Southeast Asia. You're competing against, you're competing with Singapore, you're competing with Malaysia. You need to start. If you're not doing it already, if your staff can't do it now, you're falling behind. You really must do it. Presentations in English are a must. Really, they're a must. And there are formulas for this. There are formulas to make this easier. It doesn't have to be a painful process. This could be easy.
What are the formulas?
Okay, so your biggest enemy. You have two enemies really when you are making a presentation. Of course, the first one is nerves, your confidence, and that can be overcome in a variety of ways. But the second enemy that you've got is audience disconnection or audience boredom, really. And the best way to overcome that is right at the beginning. There's two ways to do this. Right at the beginning, questions. Not introductions. Introductions send signals to your audience that basically says this is going to be a boring presentation. Instead, you begin your presentation with questions. It locks them in. They're yours. They're right here. They can't look away because you're asking questions. And then you follow that up with story. Story is amazing in a presentation. If you create story, you create myth. Once you've created myth, your audience is yours. It's amazing. Really, it works. Guaranteed. Every time.
Joe, can you explain the reverse 80-20 principle in English language training?
This one I think is really important. This comes up a lot. It's quite important, and people don't really understand it, what it actually means, and it's a real shame. Your typical classroom, or your typical English classroom in Indonesia, it's 80% teacher talking time, 20% student talking time. This is a terrible problem. That means that for 2 hours, the teacher is dominating the class, and the students really only have 20% speaking time. They are wasting precious learning time. At English Today, we really push towards reversing this, where students talk for 80% of the time, and the teacher only guides. He's the guide, He's the mentor, he's the coach, 20% of the time. So it's maximum student participation. It's so important, so important. Complete reversal from what you're going to find out there in Jakarta. I know because I've worked in other language providers. It it's 80%. Over and over, 80% teacher talking time. It's just non-stop teacher talking time. Teacher domination of the class. Terrible. No learning. No learning.
What can students do in their own time to improve their English?
Good question. And again, this question really, the answer to this question really depends on the level. I mean, if you are very much elementary or a basic English learner at the moment, the recommendation, it would be something like, stick to songs, sing songs, watch movies. News are wonderful. Actually, I think news are better than movies, because movies you can kind of start to get an idea of what's happening and you kind of switch off. News, well, it's always new, yeah, so you're kind of needing to focus. But if you're not elementary, if you are already, you're pre-intermediate, you're up into the intermediate zone, you're going up now, songs start to have a limited value, yeah. I really, really recommend reading, yeah. Reading's magic. Reading is where it's at, yeah. Part of my lessons, students often tell me, oh, I'm not a reader, Joe. I just can't sit through a novel, yeah. You don't have to sit through a novel, yeah. Part of my teaching, part of my classes, I guide the students towards reading, yeah. I present to them reading activities, reading material that they find interesting, exciting. They love it. It's fascinating. Reading for the upper levels is a must.
You've taught at other companies. What convinced you to switch over to English Today?
To English Today? It's completely different here, really. It's the focus. Yeah. The focus at English Today is really the student. Yeah. I taught in Thailand. I taught university in Thailand. Yeah. I came here. I started teaching Wall Street. Had a great time. Everything was great, but I never found my thing. I never found a company that was just so focused on the student. Yeah. It's completely different. I've got the freedom to develop. I have the freedom to explore different ways of teaching. Oh, it's amazing. Yeah. It's really completely different. Completely different. In Jakarta, I think it's the most unique system. It's the most unique training provider. Would be English Today. Yeah. Seriously, amazing. Really.
How can a student build up enough confidence to speak to a foreigner?
Yeah, I get asked that quite a lot. And really what they're saying is that they're afraid, really. It's a fear thing of approaching a foreigner. What if my English is not good enough? Am I going to embarrass myself? And I always think fear is good. You should be afraid. There's nothing wrong with fear. But if you can transform your fear, you're afraid, you take the chance, you approach the foreigner, you speak, you walk away from that experience, you grow. It's incredible how much you grow, yeah? Don't be afraid, yeah? Take a chance, yeah? Make new targets, yeah? Your target today might be to pick up 6 new words, 7 new words. Your target next week might be to speak to 1 foreigner. And the week after that, 2 foreigners. It's part of your learning process, yeah? Don't be afraid, yeah? Don't be afraid. Foreigners are, they love listening to Indonesians speaking in English, I'm sure you know. Hey, we love it when you speak English. That's the truth. Speak, please.
How do you approach a new class, and how do you get them interested right from the beginning?
It's funny, like different classes, they have personalities. They like people. Groups have personalities. Yeah, they like people. Yeah. But the thing they do have in common is first class. First class, it doesn't matter the personality. They're all kind of similar. And the overwhelming mood is one of shyness and fear, I guess would be the right word. You've got to get them there. If you don't get them in the first class, it's really difficult to come back after that. Yeah? So I'm a really big believer, first class, it's high energy, high motivation. It's a power class. Yeah? And then from then, it's just momentum. Yeah? A lot of students, they view English learning and English classes very much like a mountain, yeah, like climbing this huge mountain, and they create a mountain. And the first class is to convince them that there is no mountain. Actually, the mountain is just a small little hill, just a small little step for you to step over. Yeah. Once you do that, wow, the classes just have their own energy. Yeah, they're amazing. Yeah, that's what I think.